We're sure delighted to be with you once again. Linda and I started this business 19 years ago, two people with a dream, two young kids, 25 years old. We had hoped to be free somehow, somewhere. We had interest to do the best we could for our families. I didn't want Linda to have to work at a job out of the home. And today we have over 200,000 people in our organization around the world. Things are growing, and things are growing faster than we ever dreamed possible. And we started in a little town of 1,200 people. And to think that someday we'd have an organization around the world just blows our mind. They have several diamonds in Japan and Australia and here in the UK and in the US and breaking new ones all the time. It is spectacular to have such a chance, to have been given such a wonderful gift a few years ago that you have in your hands as well. And as I started the evening, we sure enjoyed every trip we've ever had over here, and our gifts have been of friendship, have been the greatest gifts we've ever had received from here, and we enjoy the other gifts that we're given, but the greatest gifts are the friendship and the quality of friendship that we have from all your leaders. And we enjoy the nice hotels we stayed in. We're in a very nice hotel this trip. I don't know how we're going to get all the towels in our suitcase. Kidding. It's a joke. Linda said, they might think you're serious. I'm just kidding. Strange things happen with technology today. You see a lot of people even get plastic surgery. Some people you can't tell what they look like unless you look at their kids. I've seen this one guy in my group, he wanted plastic surgery, so I loaned him $5,000 to get some plastic surgery. I can't get my money back because I don't know what he looks like. It's an odd situation. And people are worried so often about what they look like. But it's not what's on the outside that counts. It's what's on the inside that counts. Fresh water. Thank you very much. Quality service and a quality facility. I respect that, young man. I'm reminded of this evangelist, David Revere. He was worried about what he looked like as he was in a very severe accident and was burned horribly, disfigured, and he was worried about how he would be accepted. And he was most worried about how his wife would accept him. Is she still going to love him? Is she going to stay with him? He was worried about these things, and a nurse had overheard and told his wife when she came in that he's really worried about how he's going to be accepted by you. And she walked in and sat beside him and reached over and hugged him and said, honey, we love you just the way you are. You didn't look that great before anyway. So strange things happen. Don't sweat the small stuff. Thank God for what you got. Some people would like to look different than what they look like. You know what? There's some things you can't change, right? You can't change how tall you are. You can't change how short you are. You can't change your vision except for the use of glasses. And sometimes some people wish they had more hair. It don't matter. It don't matter. Money buys hair, but hair don't buy nothing, so don't worry about it. I got a friend of mine, he's bald, he said God gave hair to people who didn't have a good-looking head. So you always look at the bright side and be thankful for the toolkit you got. It's what you got that counts. It's not where you are that counts. These two guys were laying bricks and asked the one what he was doing. The one said, well, I'm laying bricks for 20 pounds an hour. And asked the other one, so what are you doing? He said, I'm building a hospital to help people live longer lives, to help young people live a life that otherwise perhaps could not, to help the old elderly live longer and to be able to teach their kids and their grandchildren the experiences they've had. He got fired. He was supposed to be building a garage. Weird things happen. The fellow I sponsored me into business wasn't real quick. He was a slow guy I went to high school with. He was a little slow. You know what I mean? A little slow. Teacher asked him one day, how do you spell Mississippi? He says, ma'am, what do you mean, the river or the state? I didn't have it figured out. Teacher asked him one day, he was getting in a little bit of trouble and said, do you want to go to heaven? All the kids had an assembly and asked everybody wants to go to heaven, stand up. Everybody stood up at him. He was still sitting down. Teacher walked over and said, "What's the matter? You want to go to hell?" He said, "No." He said, "Why didn't you stand up when I asked you who wanted to go to heaven?" He said, "I thought he was getting a group up to go right now. I ain't ready yet." I told him, I said, "Hey, look at that dog over there with one eye." He goes, "Okay." Weird stuff. He's the kind of guy to take him an hour and a half to watch a TV show 60 minutes, you know what I mean? Strange stuff. We was out to eat one night and we're coming home. We're coming home from a meeting. We were pretty far from home, and we stopped and ate at a restaurant before we got back into town, and two waitresses were arguing. They were serving, arguing where the sun comes up, east or the west, and they weren't sure, and they came over to our table and looked at him and said, "Where's the sun come up, east or west?" He said, "I don't know. I'm not from around here." Strange stuff. You know, they had a doctor in our area just recently got sued. They got sued for treating this man for yellow jaundice for 5 years, only to find out the man he was treating was a Chinaman. Sort of kind of goofed up. I seen something over here that we don't have back home, and that's them round bales of hay. We don't have them back home. They're illegal back home because they found that the cattle that were eating round bales couldn't get a square meal. You know, weird stuff happens. If you're going to succeed in the game of life, one of the things you got to do is learn to have a good time and smile and laugh and enjoy life as you go. And smile and let people know that your heart's at home. You got to enjoy the trip. You can't change it. You know, there's some things you can change, and there's some things you can't change. You got to accept the things you can't change, and realize that within every adversity comes with it a seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. And some days things are going to go just perfectly great, and some days there's going to be a few kinks in the situation, but you just move on anyway, right? We're just moving on in spite of it. And you know, this is a very special weekend. Why do we have a weekend called Free Enterprise Day? Why is it Free Enterprise Day? What is free enterprise? Free enterprise is not possible in a country that they have communism like in Cuba. When in that country they had the freedom and had the free enterprise, the people had surplus in goods and services. But as they brought in communism, which was supposed to be a system that everybody works according to what they can do and take out according to what they need, and everybody's going to live happily ever after, right? Hope to tell you it doesn't work that way. But free enterprise works where we have a society where we have freedom, that we can use our God-given abilities and talents by following the laws of God and the laws of man, that we can provide the quality of lifestyle for our families by using our ingenuity, our creativity, our ambition, our hands, our eyes, our ears, our brain to do the best we can each day and to do well in this society. Where do the inventions come from? The free societies or the ones that are totally controlled by the bureaucrats of government? You know, it's where people have more freedom. And that's why we have more prosperity where we have freedom and free enterprise. And what makes freedom and what makes free enterprise work? Free enterprise works when people have self-government, when they have a little bit of self-discipline, when they say, "I'm going to make things happen." When you make a decision. When you make a decision, that's when things start to happen. I grew up poor, and I was determined that somehow I wasn't going to stay poor. One day my dad we had a depression in the U.S., and they got married that year of the depression. And they got married, then the depression hit. That year they lost their job, lost their home, lost their car, lost their furniture. They lost their first child that year. Did they give up on life? Did they go to drugs of some type or another? Did they resort to suicide? Did they resort to giving up? Did they wait for a handout? They just reached down and dug a little deeper. They picked themselves up by their own bootstraps and said, "We're going to make something happen." And one of the things that my dad said, he said, "I'll never work for somebody else again, where I have somebody else that can lay me off or let me go." You know, you never heard of a diamond being laid off. You never heard of an emerald being furloughed. Or you never heard of a diamond or an emerald being set out to pasture and say, "We can't use you anymore." When you got your own business, things are going to happen. But see, we were sort of programmed, as I grew up in a sense, to get a good education, get a good job. That meant somebody else was going to control my income. That meant I had a little limited opportunity to exercise my rights and my freedom in a free enterprise system, in a free enterprise society, in a capitalist society, where I couldn't use my abilities and talents to the extent in that situation and be compensated, because they had a fixed, limited situation. But you know, my dad said, I'll never work for somebody else. And today they're building this business too. In their mid-70s, they do over $1 million a month in business. Their business is growing around the world. You know, today we have a lot of our family involved in the business. We have a lot of our, how many would like to have more of your family involved in business with you? What you do is you go ahead and succeed with them or without them. It's got to be your attitude. We're going to move on, and as they see us move on, they'll come on board. Sometimes your family needs to see you move on. Okay? And as we went emerald and moved on and started buying properties and whatnot, our family started to ask some questions. When they see us driving different vehicles, they started to ask a few more questions. And today, my brothers and sisters and Linda's brothers and sisters who aren't in the business, their kids are getting in. Because I know Mom and Dad couldn't see it, but we can. We see a difference. The economic policies my parents live by aren't working the same as the economic policies of Aunt Lynn and Uncle Fred. The seeing the flight tickets are just a little bit different. The travel itinerary is a lot different. And you know what? You have the freedom to make the decisions. Did you decide you're going direct and going emerald in the next 12 months? Why not decide to do that? What else do you have to turn to? What's the alternative? And we looked at the alternative. What else was there? If we didn't do this, then what? If we weren't going to do it now, then when in the world are we going to do it? And you know, time is slipping by, isn't it? And you know, our attitude, and I found the difference between the people that really make this thing happen and don't. Those who really make it happen look at what they can do, and they look at the alternative. You know, the Concorde is a result of free enterprise, where people had incentive. You know, the first aircraft crossed the Atlantic in over 36 hours. Now we crossed the Atlantic in 3 hours. Things have changed. And in this business, it's sort of like the same thing. In the beginning, the business was sort of like the Spirit of St. Louis. It took a long time to sort out. And today it's like the Concorde. But we had a sense of urgency. For our kids, when our first daughter was born, I said, boy, I got to get on with it. I got a responsibility. And I was committed. When we saw it, I was committed to doing the best I could in life. And if you want to win, you got to get committed. You got to be a visionary. You got to see things as they can be and not follow the masses. And you know, part of the problem, a lot of people worry about what everybody else is thinking. But who's paying your bills? That's who's got to be making the right decisions. And I had some people tell me I was crazy when we started to build the business. Now they say, you sure are lucky, Fred. You're the luckiest guy I know, Fred. Everything you seem to touch turns to gold, Fred. So yeah, I'm lucky I didn't listen to them. I'm lucky I didn't listen to the wrong people. And who are you going to listen to? You got to look at the fruit on the tree. And if you want to win, doesn't not make sense? You listen to winners who are achieving. Look around. This business is working. And you have the freedom to direct your own life. You know, you have the freedom to think what you want. You have the freedom to read what you want. You have the freedom to listen to whatever tapes you want or not to. You have the freedom to watch negative TV or watch a positive video. You have freedom to come to a function like this. You are so richly blessed with that freedom. And you have the freedom to decide what you're going to do this year. And you have that freedom of choice. And that's what separates you from a lot of people who are under financial bondage around the world. You know, you and I are very similar to a pig, except for what we can think, our ability to think, and in our spirit in our life. And if we only use what a pig uses, we live more like a pig. But if we want to be free and soar with the eagles, we're going to have to use this thing between our ears. And that is the greatest gift that we've been given by God to use to soar beyond our wildest imagination. You know, you got to get committed. We got committed, and the people that win, they get committed. Committed to their God, their family, the country. It takes a commitment. I like the guy gets in and says, I'm going to try it for 6 months. I said, what do you mean try it for 6 months? You've been trying your job for 10 years. Where'd that get you? We didn't get into business to try it. We saw all the people in the profiles, and we saw the people going across stage, and we said, man, if they can all do it, we can too. We decided we're going to do it. It takes a little courage to step out. It does take a little courage to step out of the mold. You know, my background was in agriculture. I grew up on a farm, taught in agriculture, all my studies in agriculture engineering and all that stuff. And I stepped out of that when I got in this business, trying something different. And you got to be willing to try something different. And most people aren't willing to try something different. They want to follow what they've been doing. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep being where you are. You got to make some kind of a change. You know what I mean? And life gets a little bland. It's sort of like eating the same cereal every morning. If you had to eat the exact same breakfast every day, it would get old after a while, wouldn't it? And that's what a lot of lives are. It's still doing us today. It's just a repeat of yesterday. But you know, life don't have to be that way. We can make a change. We can read. We can exercise our mind. We can have the courage to see future in a little different light. We can take charge of a life. And I know we're not going to be accepted by everybody. You know, if you sit on an airplane and, you know, you're sitting by a smoker and you're a non-smoker, or if a person smokes, you'll be offended. Right? And vice versa. And you can't be accepted by everybody. You know, in our business, this is one of the greatest drug efforts in the world. Because, you know, I don't see in any functions we have like this and all around the world, I don't see any drugs. I see husbands and wives sitting together. Isn't this exciting? We have less than 1% divorce rate in our organization. Isn't that great for families? Isn't that great for kids? Do you realize all the special things about this business that aren't touted and talked about? And I'm amazed that sometimes people say you're happy and proud of your business. I'm more proud of what I do in this than anything else I've ever done in my life. Because it does more good for more people than anything else I had ever done. And gives more people hope in themselves than anything I'd ever done in my life. Hey, you got to bounce back. Some days things aren't going to go your way. We had days that things didn't go our way. We just didn't sit on our hands. We just got to keep moving. You got to get out of a foxhole if you're going to win. If you just spend all your life in a foxhole, somebody's going to locate and pinpoint your position and blow you up. You're going to be in trouble. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. The negative people can't pick at you if you're moving, only if you're sitting still. Do you understand? We keep moving. And now nieces get into business and their parents say, well, I guess you're going to be driving a new car now every time you come up here, you know, because they know there's a future in the business. And you got to adjust some priorities. We had some priorities. We changed some priorities. I gave up fishing. I gave up trap shooting. And I put some of that stuff aside. And you know, now we have our own trap range. Now I have a press that loads up ammunition for shooting trap, and I have a guy hired that he loads it up. And I got into business, I had 3 farms. Now I have 70.